Hi, welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and today I'm talking about My Dead Friend Zoe. It's a surprisingly emotional exploration of grief, trauma, and the enduring bonds forged in military service. It's Kyle Hausmann's directorial debut and is scheduled to release this weekend on February 28th, 2025. My Dead Friend Zoe is an interesting film about post-war life through the eyes of Merritt, portrayed by Sonequa Martin-Green. Now, before I hop into my review, if you want to support the channel, then please take a second to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you, I really appreciate it. As a warning, this review will contain spoilers, so please continue at your own risk. Seriously, my next disclaimer is inherently a spoiler, so please click away. Trigger warning, this movie and review do contain the topic of suicide and mental health, so if that's too dark, please click away. I also want to mention and thank Pixel Scene Media for sharing an early screening with me. Lastly, if there's anything you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know and I will do my best to get to it. Thank you. I'm hopping in 3, 2, 1. Merritt is a U.S. Army Afghanistan veteran grappling with the loss of her best friend and fellow soldier Zoe, played by Nataliemorales. Haunted by Zoe's presence, Merritt struggles with her life and family relationships. She has a mandatory support group she needs to engage with, but her trauma is too much for her to talk about. Her grandfather Dale is a reclusive Vietnam veteran who lives in the family's lakeside cabin. Unfortunately, he has early onset dementia and needs assistance or will be put into a retirement home. Merritt takes this opportunity to avoid therapy and reconnect with her grandfather. Narratively, I think this movie is solid. It jumps back and forth between Merritt's present life and her life with Zoe as a soldier. Some of these cuts can be a bit jarring and sometimes feel a bit overplayed. I'll explain that in a second. However, these cuts are important because they help hammer home the themes of loss and familial duty. They help balance the tone between somber moments of introspection and levity and humor and friendship. Merritt's present life provides a candid portrayal of PTSD and some of the often overlooked challenges veterans face when returning home. Veterans usually feel alone. Merritt is alone. Her grandpa Dale is alone. It's hard to reconnect with the people around you. I think this movie does a good job of capturing that isolation. It's a huge part of why Merritt sees Zoe and doesn't want to talk about her trauma. If she talks about her trauma, then her friend Zoe might disappear and she's not ready to accept that her friend's gone. I think that is a very touching, emotional, and realistic coping mechanism. We all handle loss differently, and this is one of those ways. The reason I say the cuts to the past are a little overdone is because throughout the movie, they tease Zoe's death. The women are on tour and there's been talks of a sniper hiding somewhere. We obviously know Zoe is dead, so if you put one and one together, you get two. Because I knew what the outcome was, I was starting to get annoyed with all the cuts. That was until all of my expectations were completely subverted in the climax and I came to appreciate all the cuts. So if you're like me and you think the cuts are jarring and overdone, please stick with this movie. I promise you the payoff is great. Something I really liked about this movie is how authentic the production and casting were. Director Kyle Hausmann-Stokes is an Iraq veteran. He joined the U.S. Army a month before 9/11. I love that he was able to bring his experiences and emotions into this movie. I love that when it came to the casting, he also cast real-life veterans. A lot of the background actors, especially the ones in the support group, were all veterans. In the credits, we get pictures of each actor from when they were serving. Seeing their pictures and knowing that these actors are veterans helps add authenticity to each of their moments, and it made me appreciate the little details in this film. Sonequa Martin-Green delivers a compelling performance as Merritt. I think she captures the character's internal turmoil and resilience very well. Her facial expressions conveyed a lot. She's trying to move past her trauma and it's hard. It's even harder with Nataliemorales' Zoe as her dead best friend. I love the chemistry between the two leads. Zoe is a fun character who doesn't appear to take life too seriously. She's more focused on living life in the moment than thinking about the future. I think it's a good contrast between the two characters. I like that even with Zoe being dead, she never loses her personality and offers lighthearted humor. She makes a lot of quips throughout the film, and I appreciated that she never undermined the emotional moments. When Merritt needed to have a serious conversation with Dale, Zoe wasn't around. When Merritt went on a date with Alex, Zoe wasn't around. Speaking of Alex, opening up to other people is not easy. However, Utkarshambudkar is a very welcoming and easygoing presence. He's very lighthearted, charming, and funny. He's not constantly cracking over-the-top jokes, which is nice. His character and Zoe help balance some of the deeper and more emotional moments of the film so that things don't feel so bleak. The other character I appreciated was Edharris as Dale. He's a bit of a crotchety old man stuck in his ways, but it makes sense. He was a veteran for 22 years and lived lived his life by strict rules, so it makes sense that after military life, he would continue to live his life by strict rules. Another thing I liked about Edharris is that he genuinely fits the old man look and vibe. The way he hunches and shuffles and grumbles is perfect. He looks and feels like an old man whose golden years have passed. More importantly, I love that Dale being set in his ways often results in him refusing help. His arc perfectly mirrors Merritt's arc. Part of the conflict in this movie is about Merritt helping Dale into a retirement home and selling the cabin. I understand that his daughter, Merritt's mom, is concerned for his safety given his early onset dementia. I understand that she thinks he's safer in a retirement home. However, I really dislike the way that she approaches this conflict because she's very dismissive with her daughter and blames Merritt for Dale finding out her plan. She just seems like an awful mom and daughter, especially considering that hospice care is generally cheaper than a retirement home. And it's better for elderly mental health. Long story short, her character sucked and this conflict would have been resolved if she would have thought about things a little bit better. Another thing that I think could have been improved in this movie is the pacing. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that needed to have 1 or 2 minutes shaved off. Whether it's transition scenes of nature shots or even car rides with Dale and Merritt, things could have been tighter. This movie was an hour and 41 minutes, but it could have easily been an hour and 30. Again, some of these pacing issues are due to the cuts between the past and the present. I think the best way to handle these scenes is to have less of them and to not repeat the same story beats. If Merritt and Zoe are cleaning toilets, then only show that once. If they're singing a song in a Humvee, then only show that once. If they're both on guard duty, then only show that once. Showing those scenes once instead of several times helps them to not start to feel like filler. In terms of cinematography and production design, things are pretty standard. We get a pretty lakeside cabin and nature shots. The backdrop and setting are tranquil, but a little repetitive. I was happy some of these backdrops were broken up by the Afghanistan base, the bar, and even the support group. I totally forgot to mention it, but I liked Morgan Freeman in this movie. He's not in this movie much, but he is the support group leader, and as you would expect, he is very sage in the things he says. Also, I had no idea Freeman was a veteran, so again, it was really cool seeing that authentic touch. The soundtrack was good. For the most part, it fit the emotional landscape very well. I do think some tracks lingered a little longer than necessary, and I think that's why this movie is a little longer than it should be. The sound engineers should have cut songs down to help the movie go by quickly. Again, the songs weren't bad, they just lingered. Even Rihanna's umbrella during the flashbacks was a little overused. Okay, now I already know I gave my spoiler warning, but I'm going to repeat it because the meat and emotional core of this movie is inherently a spoiler. You've been warned, so here we go. The movie was inspired by the true story of 2 platoon mates, Luis Ramirez Jimenez and Boris Ventura. They survived the war in Afghanistan but came home and lost battles to suicide. This movie is very touching because it really hammers home the fact that veterans who return home and feel alone and aren't given resources have a high chance of committing suicide. I'm going to repeat some facts this film provides. Since 9/11, more than 127,000 American veterans have died by suicide. That is 18 times more than those killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. Approximately 7 in 10 veteran suicides are by gun. In 2019, the rate of veteran suicide began to decrease because of purpose-driven veteran organizations, better mental health access, and smarter policies. Better mental health is all about knowing your resources and recognizing signs. I love that this film is genuinely a resource to educate others about veteran suicide. Some depression signs are hard to spot, and I love that this film didn't shy from that. If you've seen the Norwich City Football Club World Mental Health Day video on YouTube, I think that sentiment perfectly captures what this movie captures. Check in with the people around you. Share resources and organizations like the Bob Woodruff Foundation, The Mission Continues, and Every Town for Gun Safety. It's important that we let everyone know, even when they feel like it, they are not alone. Again, I think this movie is a very touching resource that should be supported and shared. So if you have a chance to watch this movie, please do so. My Dead Friend Zoe is a surprisingly powerful, emotional, and deeply personal film that offers a raw portrayal of grief, PTSD, and the challenges veterans face post-deployment. Kyle Hausmann-Stokes' direction brings an authenticity that elevates the film beyond its narrative, capturing isolation, guilt, and healing with sincerity. Sonequa Martin-Green delivers a compelling performance as Merritt, skillfully depicting the weight of her trauma and personal struggles. Nataliemorales as Zoe provides both humor and heart, never undermining the film's serious moments, but instead adding depth to the exploration of loss and memory. Edharris convincingly embodies Dale, the gruff yet endearing veteran whose reluctance to accept help mirrors Merritt's own emotional barricades. Though the film has some pacing issues, with some scenes lingering longer than necessary and certain flashbacks feeling repetitive, the emotional payoff justifies many of these choices. The cinematography and production design, while not groundbreaking, create an intimate and grounded atmosphere that complements the story. Most importantly, the film serves as an eye-opening reminder of the mental health struggles many veterans face, with its dedication to real-life service members adding a profound and touching nuance. My Dead Friend Zoe is a necessary film about trauma, support, and the importance of not suffering in silence. It's a movie that deserves to be seen not just because of cinematic merit, but because of the awareness it brings to an issue that affects countless lives. If you get the chance, I highly recommend watching it. Thank you for listening to my review of My Dead Friend Zoe. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Also, if there's something you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know and I will do my best to get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, then you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Good Friends. Again, thank you for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.